Hello everyone, it's me Arden Lee. I'm back with another video today, and today I want to talk about whew, I want to talk about about how some of the things that we've been calling addictions are maybe not addictions, but it's possible that some of the things that we have been advocating for as not being addictions also qualify as addictions in the same way that things that we've thought of as addictions are actually not addictions. Does that make sense at all? Probably not. I'm going to explain in this video. First of all, if you have not heard of my work yet, my name is Arden Lee. I'm the creator of the Repatterning Project, and that is an 8-week course in which we hack our thoughts and our beliefs, and we pinpoint our patterns and the moments in our lives at which their onset took place in order to create our realities from a place of empowerment and optimize our lives for happiness and success. So if you are interested in learning more about that, go to the description box. There is a link to a free PDF guide to the Repatterning Project as a course and as a modality. And there's also a link to the Repatterning Parlor, which is the free Facebook group that I moderate. Come say hi, tell me about yourself, and tell me why it interests you. I would love to meet you. So go ahead and check out those resources if you are interested in learning more on this subject. This is a topic that I am still teasing out a little bit, and you'll also notice that the last video I made, I said, I love being right so much that I'm willing to be wrong, because of course, in the moment that I realize I'm wrong, I'm right again. And there's been a lot of advocacy. In this case, I'm gonna go with I'm being half right here. There's like this middle ground between two things that I really want to extrapolate on, and that's about the nature of addiction. And in the past, I have really strongly advocated for the fact that sex addiction and porn addiction in particular is a myth, because what happens is that people's sexualities, and especially the adult performer industry, are both weaponized. They're demonized essentially. They're vilified as a result of this belief that sex and/or porn can be addictive. Because right now we are still thinking about addiction as being substance-based, right? We think of addictive substances, and we think of things like heroin, right? We think of addictive substances like cocaine, the opioid crisis, for example, that shows that, oh look, these substances are dangerous, better avoid them, and certainly, absolutely, there's certainly merit to avoiding substances that can potentially, create patterns where they get their hooks in you, and you continue to seek that high. And in that same way, we can actually feel that way about anything. So here's the nuance that I want to extrapolate upon. Essentially, I've been advocating for a long time that sex addiction is a myth, that porn addiction is a myth, because neither sex nor porn are addictive substances. And so much of the rhetoric around sex and porn addiction seeks to demonize people's sexual expressions, especially to demonize the adult performer industry. And I'm really not, I'm not okay with any of that, because there is so much stigma. There's so much stigma in our world about people's sexualities, and especially around sex work. And if you've done the research at all into sex work, and there's so much danger that sex workers in particular come under as a result of that stigma. I've been a sex worker myself. I was a pro-dom, professional dominatrix, when I was in my 20s, and I felt a lot of the effects of that persecution and that stigma in ways that were not healthy. A lot of my friends and former lovers have been adult performers, and so I also see the ways that they are stigmatized for their work, and that they become demonized as these they're purveyors, like they're pushers of this bad substance, they're creating something that is really not their fault, that because certainly it's it's up to the adult performer industry to regulate itself and to be able to create healthy working conditions for its performers, to cast fairly, and to try and to create conditions that are as healthy and as favorable as possible for people, to diversify the industry, and to create more and more kinds of representations of sex that are healthy models, but also it's not our job as outsiders to decide, what's healthy or what's not, especially when there are so many people out there. For example, there's so many women who have fantasies of non-consent. There's so many women who have rape fantasies. So when people try to say porn is bad because it encourages, it normalizes rape, there are actually a lot of women out there who have those fantasies as well. So it's not just it's not just this patriarchal brainwashing thing. There's so many ways that people try to attack this, is essentially is what I'm saying. And so for so many years I've said that these things, hi Virgil, that these things are not addictive substances. This is not, you can't have a sex addiction, you can't have a porn addiction. That all you can do is have compulsive behavior around that. And to an extent I still believe that that's true. But what I'm learning from this awesome book that I've referenced in several of my videos now, Unbroken Brain, A Revolutionary New Way of Understanding Addiction by Maya Zalovitz, is that she's essentially saying that there are almost no substances that are inherently addictive in and of themselves. And we see this with the with people who go on opioids after surgery for pain management and take these doses that are so much higher than what they would be getting, for heroin at the street level, and they're ending up, not having addictions too. And there's reasons for that, and those reasons are that the things that cause addiction are known as sensitization and tolerance. And what sensitization is it means that the more often that you do it, the more often, or not the more often, but the certain patterns in which you engage in this behavior or use of a substance or use of something, the more you engage in that, in a certain pattern, especially of a random pattern, again, that intermittent reinforcement we've been talking about in some of the other videos, when a pattern is random, when you're getting high at random intervals, which is what most street use amounts to, because sometimes it's like apparently, according to her experience and her research, what she says is that addicts they'll score a whole bunch, because they finally got paid or whatever, and then they'll do like all of it, and then they'll be starved of that for a while. So it's this like, when can I score, and if I'm not sure when that's going to happen, then I'm gonna have that increased craving, because I'm not used to doing it every day, right? Because I don't know when it's going to happen, so I want more of it, and I focus on that craving and thinking about it. And so that's sensitization, right? Sensitization is like, oh my gosh, I want this. I want this thing. It doesn't increase our liking; it actually increases our craving of it. And also, and then the other factor there is tolerance, and tolerance essentially is like, the more and more we do it, the less and less of a high we get. So the way that people get addicted is that their craving for something increases. That's dopamine, right? Dopamine is in charge of our wanting, not our actually enjoying something. And so we feel that craving. We're like, I want that thing, I want it, and I need more and more of it now to get high, right? Because I have my tolerance at the same time. Like, I have tolerance over there, so I need more and more of this thing. And what's amazing about this is that, I first read about this phenomenon back in 2009, you guys, when the same author wrote an article for Elle magazine about dopamine and how it increases our craving but not our satisfaction. And it really struck me as being true of my toxic relationship at the time. I'm like, I am less and less functional without this person. I crave having their presence around. I feel like I depend on them. And that was also happening because that person was purposefully conditioning me to be that way. And yet at the same time, I'm also developing a tolerance to their presence. I don't get that same high. I've known them for years now, and when I do see them, I'm not even enjoying this. I'm not even having fun, right? So here's the thing. When I start to see those similarities between my own patterns of toxic relationship and actual drug users, I start to reframe addiction in a different way. So here's the problem with this, you guys, is I'm still unwilling in our current society to give validation to the term sex addiction and porn addiction, because so much in our society right now, the word addiction is used to weaponize itself against people in the adult performer industry, in the sex work industry, when really what is safest for them is tolerance and decriminalization, right? Amnesty International came out with a proposal, I want to say it was in 2014, and they came out with a recommendation, to the world essentially, and they said the safest. We've studied everything. We've taken a look at all of the societies, and the safest way to put out harm reduction in terms of sex work is full decriminalization. And that means destigmatizing. That means not even legalizing, like regulating, just full decriminalization. Just that's going to keep things safe for everybody. So in this day and age where we have bills like SESTA and FOSTA that are endangering sex workers and adult performers, when we have bills being passed that, not being passed, thankfully, but we have bills being proposed, especially in the state of California, which is like the porn producer capital of the world, where we have bills being introduced where they want to enforce condom use in porn to the point where they would be rewarding civilians who sued performers for not using condoms with monetary rewards. And that's ridiculous when you think about it. When you think about how many adult performers have to deal with stalkers and people on the internet who love to harass them because of their shame anyway, then that really becomes insidious. Then you could have someone who's stalking or harassing someone, and they could go ahead and bring a lawsuit against them and be monetarily rewarded by the government if this person who's a porn performer happened to upload a clip of them and even their monogamous partner having sex without a condom. And it's just ridiculous. And we live in a society that takes any term that it can and weaponizes it against sex workers and against the adult performer industry and contributes to that stigma. So here are the two things that I am currently balancing right now. On the one hand, I am seeing how much addiction itself is a result of a pattern and not a demonized substance, that there are people who can take much stronger doses of opioid medication than people who are taking heroin on the street. And the reason, by the way, that works is that if you have a regular dose, this is why methadone and Suboxone treatments really help people to get off drugs, even though on the surface it looks like they're just changing out one drug for another. What actually happens is that by taking it regularly on schedule, they get rid of that factor of intermittent reinforcement that causes increased sensitization and more wanting. And they also develop a tolerance because they're using it every day. So they decrease their craving because they're using it every day, and they develop more of a tolerance because they're using it every day. So now they don't seek that high anymore, right? They start to get used to it. So and then they can titrate off of it. And so that's so much more effective than any kind of shame or whatever, right? So, but we're looking at where the substance itself is not the thing to be demonized. It's actually the pattern of behavior. And I've said for a long time that it's very possible to have compulsive behavior around sex and around porn use. It's very possible for someone to just give into these patterns where, hey, it's easier for me to go and watch porn than it is for me to connect with a human being, and I just get used to that pattern of just coming home every day and turning on my laptop and deciding to rub one out instead of going and meeting people and connecting with people or what have you, and it's that same kind of pattern. So I'm stuck in this kind of I'm not stuck, I'm choosing to be here, but I'm choosing to be in this middle ground now where I'm kind of realizing that that sex and porn addiction, while I've said it's a myth for a long time, the reality under that is that the way that we look at all addiction right now in society is a big myth, because it's really about our patterns and our behavioral compulsions so much more than it is about demonizing a substance. So I hate that that the terms sex addiction and porn addiction get weaponized against sex workers, and I hate that that addiction, anything that is considered an addictive substance gets demonized right away without really, it's just so much easier for us to blame a substance or blame, a bottle of alcohol or blame, a porn performer, for whatever people's human compulsions are, right? So it really is about, at the end of the day, it's about owning our behavior. But I want people to know that I'm really looking into this and I'm examining this, and our whole ways of relating to addiction are really being called in for a whole overhaul, because it really is so much more about our patterns of behavior. And that this thing that I've been saying, sex and porn addiction, doesn't exist. That whole paradigm, that frame that I've been trying to get people to come around to, and saying like, hey, it's not an addiction because this is not an addictive substance. It's actually just your behavioral patterns and giving into your behavioral compulsions. Well, it turns out that that's actually maybe like what all addiction is in general, which means that, you know, sex and porn addiction is addiction only insofar as addiction is addiction, and we need to completely rewire our whole understanding of addiction, because the way that we're looking at it right now is pretty harmful. And this is a really great book, you guys. It's really teaching me so much about our own our behavioral patterns and how we get into our patterns, and why those patterns are sometimes so difficult for us to break out of, whether it is about a substance, whether it's about porn use, whether it's about a toxic relationship. For me, it was BDSM, you know, for me it was surrender. I don't know how that got set in there. I've been asking myself that one for a long time, but I certainly know how it got reinforced over the years, and I also know that it is not BDSM's fault. I have no intention of demonizing BDSM, although I do have intentions of examining the parts of it that may be less healthy, or more, you know, prone to creating these compulsive patterns of behavior. That's certainly worth examining without, you know, throwing out the baby with the bathwater, etc. And that's what I'd like to encourage us all to do with all of our patterns, is to really look at where these set in, look at the ways in which we engage with things, whether they are substances or relationships or porn or people, or what, it could be anything, y'all. It could be anything. So yeah, I'm bringing more and more nuance to my own understanding of that, and the more that I do that, the more I see how important it is for us as a society to do that as well. So that's why I'm bringing this into a video, because I think it's really, we just have to stop shifting the blame onto substances or sex workers or whatever it is, and start to empower ourselves to realize that actually what happens is it's our learned behavior, and it's the way that pattern sets in, and the ways that our brains adapt to patterns and continue to seek out the same things that have worked for us before, and even when they stop working for us and start to actually be harmful. And at what point can we actually stop that cycle of harm and break free of it? So I'm really interested in learning about that and starting to understand that and bringing greater awareness to that, and I hope you are too. So I'm going to continue thinking about all those things and increasing my understanding of the nuances involved. That's definitely my promise to you. And thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I will definitely see you in the next video. So in the meantime, yeah, I'll be doing some thinking about a lot of my, it's really hard for me to to make a video, you guys, where it's like, oh, maybe sex addiction is real, because again, that statement is so easily weaponized against sex workers and adult performers, and I don't ever want to do that. But I do want to start bringing more and more light to what the nature of addiction really is, and the fact that it can actually happen with anything. And that doesn't mean that we weaponize the thing or demonize the thing, or demonize the thing or weaponize the word addiction to condemn that thing, so we can shift our blame onto it. But rather, we have greater and greater understandings of how our brains learn patterns and continue to engage in that behavior. Whew, that's a lot, and I'm still processing all of it, to be honest. So thank you for being present and paying attention. Hope you got something out of this. I'll see you next time.